All right, let's get into it. We're going to piece together a puzzle today, a pretty big one, actually. It's a puzzle of power that explains how the United States government really works. So, have you ever really stopped to think about who's in charge? I mean, who has the final say to make laws or decide what happens when people break them? If your first thought is the president, well, you're not wrong, but you're not exactly right either. The real answer is so much more interesting. You see, the president is just one piece of this giant power puzzle. And this whole complicated design, it wasn't an accident. It was all put in place very carefully for a really crucial reason. To solve this puzzle, here's our game plan. We'll start with why it was even created in the first place. Then we'll look at the three main pieces, the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. After that, we'll put it all together to see the big picture. And finally, we'll talk about what might just be the most important piece of all, you. It all starts, as these things often do, with a problem. Right after the American Revolution, the founders had one single, major fear that shaped everything. So the war ends in 1783, and suddenly this brand new nation is trying to figure things out. And for years, the central question, the big debate, was this: how do we build a government that's strong and fair, one that protects people's freedom, without accidentally creating a new king? Their solution was, honestly, brilliant. They created three separate branches of government, each with its own specific powers. But, and this is the genius part, all held in check by the others. For instance, a president can veto a law passed by Congress, but if Congress gets enough votes, they can turn right around and override that veto. It's this constant push and pull. That's the system working exactly as designed. This idea of checks and balances is really the master key to the whole puzzle.
So let's look at the first piece. A lot of people believe the founders thought this was the most important branch, mainly because they put it first in the Constitution, right there in Article 1.
So, who are we talking about here? These are the lawmakers. They make up the U.S. Congress, which itself is split into two parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. And all of their authority comes directly from the Constitution itself. Now, what's really fascinating here is just how much power they have. Yeah, their main job is making laws, but look at this list. They also control all the country's money, they have the sole power to declare war, and they even have to approve the judges who will interpret the laws they write. That's a huge deal. And the way Congress is built is a compromise in itself. Every state, no matter how big or small, gets exactly 2 senators. That gives equal power to smaller states. But then you have the House of Representatives with its 435 members, and that's all based on population. So it's this delicate balance of state power versus people power. Now, let's check out the branch that actually carries out the laws Congress creates. This is the branch most of us think of first, right? And it's all laid out in Article 2 of the Constitution. Its main job is to carry out, or, execute the laws that Congress passes. The big names here are, of course, the president and the vice president, but they are absolutely not working alone. They've got a whole team of advisors called the cabinet. These are the heads of all the major federal departments, and they help make these massive decisions on everything from the economy to defense. And their duties, they're enormous. The president is the commander-in-chief of the entire military, the nation's top diplomat on the world stage, and is responsible for making sure the whole government is actually running and that the laws are being followed. And to get all that work done, it takes a massive team. I mean, a truly massive team. The executive branch employs over 4 million people. Just let that number sink in for a second. It is a gigantic operation. Okay, time for our third and final piece of the government puzzle, all laid out in Article 3. This is the court system, and its entire job is to interpret the laws of the nation. This branch is made up of all the federal courts in the country. It starts with district courts at the local level and goes all the way up to the very highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court. Their role is absolutely critical. They don't just punish people who break the law. They also settle huge arguments between states. And, this is maybe the most important part, they get to decide if the laws passed by Congress and signed by the president are even allowed under the Constitution. And here is a fascinating little detail that shows you their unique power. The president serves a 4-year term. Simple enough. But the 9 justices on the Supreme Court, they are appointed for life. The idea is to make sure they can make decisions based purely on the law, totally free from any kind of political pressure. So we've looked at all the individual pieces. Now let's zoom out and see how this incredible and kind of complicated puzzle of power actually fits together to make one government.
So let's put it all together. It's actually pretty simple when you boil it down. Congress makes the laws, the president enforces the laws, and the Supreme Court interprets the laws. Make, enforce, interpret. Each branch has a clear, distinct job, and each one checks the power of the others. The most crucial point of all is that no single branch can ever act alone.
But you know what? There's still one more piece to this puzzle. It's the one we mentioned at the start, and it might just be the most important one. And that piece is you. Why does any of this matter? Because the entire system, this whole complicated machine, relies on us, the citizens, actually knowing how it works. This isn't just some boring history lesson, it's a fundamental duty. And you are a part of this government every single day, whether you realize it or not. When you serve on a jury, you're part of the judicial system. When you contact your representative to complain or give praise, you're influencing Congress. And of course, when you vote in elections, you are actively participating in this system. You are a check on power.
So we'll end with this. The founders didn't just give power to 3 branches of government. They designed a system where power is ultimately shared with the people. The question isn't just about their power anymore. The real question is, how will you use yours?